Hello and welcome everyone to the January 14th edition of the contributor experience meeting of the Kubernetes project. This is the meeting for North America and EU. Please be advised that this meeting is under the code of conduct, which in short basically says be excellent to your fellow attendees and speakers. Please add yourself into the document and notes. Josh already volunteered for note-taking. Thank you so much. And we also would like to give anyone the possibility to introduce themselves in the beginning of the meeting. I can quickly do this. Hi, I'm Mario. I'm one of the co-chairs for the SIG contributor experience in Kubernetes. And pronouns are he, him, and I think that's it. Normally I forget something. If anyone wants to go next, please be my guest.
Yeah. Well, I'm Josh Burkus. I'm taking notes. I am an ex-chair of contributor experience because leadership rotation is a thing we do in the Kubernetes project for people to think about their future in the project. This is a thing that you could do too eventually. And we do have a couple people here whose names I don't recognize. So if we actually go through introducing everybody, that would be awesome.
Yeah, agreed. I can go next though. Hi all, I'm Chris Short. Current, soon to be not at AWS anymore. I've been part of the ContribEx world since 2017, 18, I forget now. It's been a long time. Feel free to go next, anybody.
I can go next. I'm Justin Santa Barbara. I work at Google. My pronouns are he, him. And I'm not a regular SIG SIG ContribEx attendee, but I came to discuss a potential project, which I hope to talk about later in the sort of open mic area.
Anyone else want to introduce themselves? This is optional, you don't have to, but it is appreciated. If not, we will jump straight into our agenda. First up is events. The first thing is the Maintainer Summit. On Sunday, the second wave for the Maintainer Summit has been closed. There is now, with a horrible deadline to review the stuff, the Kubernetes track is being reviewed by members from the Kubernetes community. The rest of the sessions are being reviewed by the co-chairs, and that's it. We have the whole timeline thing is really packed, let's put it this way. It is the first Maintainer Summit on in this size for happening at the KubeCon. So to give some context for people that are not aware what happened before, there was a contributor summit which was especially for Kubernetes. This has been transformed into a maintainer summit for all of the projects that are part of the CNCF. The Kubernetes project, as the biggest project in the CNCF, obviously also has a bigger influence in this whole process there. Currently, we are still struggling to find a good working mode with the events team, because it's also a new events team. So it's not the same events team that we had for the contributor summits in the past. And there will be an extensive retro after this. And on top of this, I was also out really sick for the past 2.5 weeks and couldn't basically do anything. and I'm now trying to catch up for all of those topics.
Yeah, and we have another problem in that regard, but check your Slack.
Yeah, I saw this. Like, I need to.
Oh,
get
no.
the messages.
This is a new problem.
Yeah, a new problem. like
Yes,
how
I haven't.
new?
The speakers who were supposed to get feedback and resubmit did not receive their feedback.
Oh. Okay.
And this was a case of, once again, the events team, because Kat and I said we can just give them the feedback directly, and they said no, we have to do it, and of course they didn't do it. But let's follow up on Slack with all.
Yeah, I just saw it popping up 3 minutes ago in the at 5:09 my time, which is like 1 hour ago. It was the first shout out, and now there's a thread in the maintainer summit. Yeah, I need to yeah. I will get this sorted tonight. Okay. Because we already established that, yes, we assumed, so what basically Natalie, Karina, and me said was, we assumed that feedback to Wave 1 folks had been already sent out.
Yeah.
However, we have a link where people can still submit. So we can still ping people directly to resubmit their stuff.
Oh, is that link still live?
Yeah, there's a VIP link to do this.
We'll follow up by Slack, but I'm going to propose that we need to delay final acceptances, because if somebody's getting the feedback today, there's no way they're revising their proposal in time for Kat and me to make a final decision and still turn in our list on Monday.
Yeah. The whole deadlines and timelines were basically not well planned out. There's no excuse to this. It's just like, that's a state. That's a fact.
Yeah. I would say there's two big problems. One is that the LF events team we're working with does not have the bandwidth for this event. They're doing it. They're clearly doing it in their spare time.
Wasn't this their idea?
They keep missing things. What?
I think the main problem that we have is they treat it as a co-located event, and it's not a co-located event.
And on top of which, for some reason of internal politics to the Linux Foundation, they are refusing to put Brianne or Deb on board to give them advice on how Kubernetes contributor summits have been run in the past, so that they actually have somebody experienced to work with.
Yeah.
So the bigger problem that we actually have as a community is that, because of them putting the timeline over the holidays, we actually have very few submissions. Because we're going to get a whole bunch of people who are like, hey, I wanted to submit something for this. Because they just heard about it next week.
I think also the main problem is that we have is that the time, so the original deadline for the maintainer summit was the end of the first wave. That was the supposed deadline for all of the sessions. What we figured out is that we want to have more, that we want to have an extended deadline for this, because usually for the contributor summit, the deadline would be way longer, or we would finish the program way later down towards KubeCon than we are doing now. So I mean, basically they want to publish. I think the publishing date for the schedule is end of this month, and if it would be a Kubernetes Contributor Summit, the deadline for publishing it would be probably mid of February. So it's already the same thing, like that we need to follow those programs, how the publishing goes for co-located events. And I think this is also something that should not happen again.
Yeah. Optimally, yeah.
All right. Yeah, Justin, go ahead.
I was just thinking, like, we want the best talks we can get, right? Like, maybe we accept 80% and leave, and then like extend the deadline and just put TBD talks or something, right? Like, certainly changes are made to the schedule, like almost up to the day. So they do accept that, and so we can sort of maybe have our cake and eat it too, right? Like, accept enough that they feel happy with the schedule, but still like extend the deadline.
I
as you want.
I proposed this last week when we had the discussion to generally extend the deadline, and the event staff said, no, we can't do this because then we run into other timing issues. I didn't get it yet why, but we also didn't have a meeting yet to discuss this. So I already tried to extend the deadline last week.
That's not good.
I would put it under the presumption that it's the first time that we are doing this, so of course it will be a bumpy ride. Anyways, any other additions to Maintainer Summit? If not, we would go further to the next topic, which would be mentoring.
Yeah, we haven't had anything happen on this since before the holidays.
Okay.
Yep.
So we need to basically pick up from last year. All right, next up would be contributor comms.
So we're gearing up for 2025. We got a lot of stuff in progress from last year, and one more thing. Not sure if it's been reported before, but Chasm put in the CNCF service desk ticket to add Blue Sky to buffer.
Yeah, maybe to give some context there, the original idea was to move over to the other thing,
Fedica, yeah.
Fedica, and Chris took thankfully the job to ask how much pricing would be, because based on the website the pricing looked way better than we have the pricing for buffer. It turned out that as soon as you have a certain amount of followers to it, then it gets ridiculously expensive. So
yeah, it's like every 10K they increase the price. Yeah.
So basically, it is now still cheaper to just have a Blue Sky added to buffer, which is what we're doing. Even adding both, I think it's for both the Blue Sky accounts. So
both, yeah.
That's still cheaper than adding it to moving to Fedica.
Mm-hmm. By like orders of magnitude. I forget the exact price, but it was going to be absurd.
It was more than double. it was more than double what we
Easily
would
more
have
than
paid.
double.
All right. Anything else from comms?
Not to my knowledge.
Then anything on contributor documentation? Moderation and media. I think, Chris, we still need to write the documentation.
Yes. Correct.
GitHub management. Is anyone from there that can put input? I can also took a quick look for.
Well, there's the whole thing of GitHub rolling out the new features, which we're getting because we have an enterprise account now.
Oh, nice.
We'll have to figure out, how to use them as a project, but at least sub-issues seem potentially useful, particularly for things like one of the things we might want to explore is whether or not. Well, the problem is that they cross repo boundaries, which probably doesn't work, right? Because you can imagine redoing KEPs so that they actually make use of sub-issues, but you can't have sub-issues across between repos, as far as I know.
You can only link, right? So you can basically link to issues in other repositories.
Yeah, we already do that.
Yeah, I mean.
But the problem is that updating everything is manual, and as a result, it's often not updated. The nice thing about the sub issues is when they get closed and everything else, it would be automatic. The other sort of big feature, as far as I can tell, is advanced search, but that's more of an individual thing. I mean, I know I'm going to use it.
Doesn't we now also have like Copilot? Because Copilot is now generally available.
Yeah, we're still not using Copilot as a project. And I think it's going to keep until the lawyers weigh in and say, okay, I think that's still going to be the case.
Yeah.
Because the official Copilot terms of service are any legal problems are on you, and the courts have not decided. So, and we can't. Yep.
Which reminds me that we need to move on this general AI policy thing, Chris, that we started last year.
Yeah, I was hoping that we'd get something in the U.S. or EU court systems, but that is not the case.
No.
All right. It'll be years.
Oh, I know, but
yeah.
I was hoping it'd be faster. We'll see.
Okay. Anything else regarding GitHub management? Next up is
Mario. Sorry, on the AI thing. One tactic I have used in the past is to argue that people are already using AI. We just don't know it, right? And like, what's the difference, effectively? Like, why are we pretending they're not? That tends to clarify people's opinions. And I don't think anything changes, right? Like, you're still responsible for your PR, whoever wrote it, right? Like, you are responsible for the code you send.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the discussion that I was referencing with Chris was that we had last year the issue that we published a blog post that that turned out to be solely written by AI.
Yeah.
In Kubernetes.io. I mean, you could argue if 4 people reviewed it, and if 4 people couldn't see that it's AI written, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's the policy that some drafts of policy that we went on were like it is generally okay, especially for content that we publish on a end user facing point, is that to flag them if they use AI or if they used AI tools. Not so much for the sake of flagging them as AI has been used, but more so of if courts decide in 5 years that all of AI generated content is or blog posts that are AI generated could be sued, for example, then we could basically immediately take down all of the AI or help partially AI generated blog posts because we flagged them in some kind of way.
I mean, I would say actually that blog post is a good example because I critiqued it as badly written, but we published it anyway because it was a first-time author. And we wanted to give them a chance, which if we'd known that they'd used AI, we would not have done.
Yeah.
Also, the first draft of it was sexist as all get out, showing you one of the other problems with using AI content generation.
Yeah, that's basically some of the parts that we put into this policy, that AI tends to be racist, sexist, or using non-appropriate language, and that you need to check some of this. So this is also part of the policies that we drafted, but they are not yet at the point where we would move them to the people that have been involved in this, and this was mainly SIG Docs and SIG ContribEx comms. Even there, we didn't reach a conclusion yet to move this to a broader audience to review.
And we'll go there. And I'll say also, coming into ContribEx and that sort of thing. Here's one of the other problems with AI being in people's toolkits for stuff. I'll spend a bunch of time mentoring a first-time contributor out of the idea that they're learning how to write a good contribution. And that time will greatly exceed, by like sometimes an order of magnitude, the amount of time it would have taken me to write the PR myself.
Yeah.
But the only reason I do that is so that they will learn to do it on their own next time. But if what I'm doing is helping them refine their, chat GPT prompt, then they're actually not learning anything, and I'm wasting my time. And that's another dimension to this, aside from, because the thing is, somebody can craft, like particularly if you look at, say, a code submission, right? Somebody can craft a perfectly good code submission through careful use of AI, of AI prompts and adjustment and everything else once, but that doesn't mean they can do it a second time. And that doesn't mean that their fourth attempt will be any better than their first attempt, because it's not them, right? It's the program. And that's a problem, right? Because we have an entire contributor ladder based on the idea that as you get experience contributing, you will get better and need less supervision. And people who are using AI are not getting better or needing less supervision.
I mean, I would argue new people don't get better. Existing people, or if you have existing people inside of the project, they know their way around, and they know what is being done, and they can utilize AI that helps to speed up boring tasks or repeatable tasks or tasks that are just need to be done, for example, but they know that they have the context, right? That's always the problem. Like junior people don't have the problem, experienced don't have the context, and experienced people have the context. Anyway, I didn't want to move to the AI discussion. Next up would be elections.
So I've actually got a new contributor who's finally have a new contributor who's helping me work on tests for Electo. Hopefully we'll make some progress on that before the next election cycle. Not that we're going to do anything about it right now. One of my intentions is to have the election sub-project, because the election officers have never found time for this, to have the election sub-project actually coordinate having some video sessions or something similar for Meet the Candidates. Because one of the problems we've had with the steering committee elections is that a lot of the voting is based purely on name recognition. And that really favors people who've been in the project for a long time and favors people who are in the project in roles that touch a lot of SIGs. Over people who say have specific plans for what they're going to do on steering. And I think the solution to this is to actually have some kind of introductory sessions where our contributors can learn more about the people who are running for steering. And as a result, make a more informed decision. And like I said, this has always been on the election officers' to-do list, and they've never gotten around to doing it. So I think we need to, as election subcommittee, I'll team up with comms and try to arrange something so that we can actually have that for the election. I mean, particularly like where this has been brutal for steering committee elections. If you notice, folks from Asia are not even running anymore because they know they won't get elected because they're well known within our Asian contributors and not by anybody else. And that's just bad because we have a lot of contributors from Asia.
Yeah, I like this. I like this pretty much, and I think that comms would be also a good point for eventually, like you said, like also either videos or blog posts or something like this to give some more information, because let's be honest, nobody reads the issue, the nomination issues in GitHub. The next election that is coming up is for the Code of Conduct.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Right, we have two elections coming up. But one thing that does work well with Electo, as long as you don't want new features, is that it is fully automated, and so it's not it's not my problem. That portion is working, and it would be fun if other SIGs took advantage of it too. But other SIGs rarely have any reason to hold an election. But we actually have two current elections, which is the GB seat, General Board seat, and the Code of Conduct committee. So our current steering committee is picking both of those groups of people. So the nice thing that works is, as election sub-project, my total involvement there was pointing somebody to where the files live.
Yeah. All right, then next up is anything to add to elections? Sorry, anyone has any point to add to elections? Next up would be the open mic discussion. First thing is from Josh, the K/community owners file.
Yeah, I was hoping to actually have more than one of the leads here, but I was thinking of actually submitting a revision to the community owners file for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is I'm one of the most active people reviewing PRs to K community, but since I'm no longer a ContribEx lead, I don't actually have the ability to prove anything. And that seems wrong. So I wanted to propose putting me back in the owners as an individual, so that I can actually approve PRs, because there's a number of PRs that someone else has reviewed. I have also reviewed, and they're currently waiting for an approver. And it's not, it's documentation updates. There's no reason why they should be hanging around. In the process, I was thinking of actually removing some people who are no longer active. So we don't. My question there is, do we actually need a policy around who becomes an owner for K community? Or can I just go ahead and do that?
To be honest, I'm not aware
Okay.
that we have something.
We do not have a policy. I'm saying do we need a policy? Or can I just do that and have the leads decide?
I think you can just PI yourself in for now, and we can discuss if like what the policy would look like then.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I would argue that the policy would look something like ContribEx leads are owners and can elect or approve people to support them in K community.
Yeah, fairly similar to how the workflow anyway goes for any sub-project or a project in general.
Yeah. So yeah, Josh, just open a PR and tag ContribEx leadership. All right. Anything to add to this? Then, hello, contributor experience. Welcome.
I popped in just so you could finish the meeting. You can't end the meeting without me.
No. we have an open point, and Justin waited now 37 minutes. Justin, maintainer tools project idea.
Actually, Caslin, you've come at the perfect time. Yes. So this is something I've spoken to Caslin and a number of other people about. Basically, as far as I know, we don't have a good place to build tooling that helps project maintainers do things like update versions or do releases or triage issues or respond to do initial PR requests, maybe using AI, although we've talked about some of the pitfalls there. But the real issue, I think, is that it would be great if we could have a repository where we could sort of experiment as a group. And when maintainers get a bee in their bonnet about something, they're able to like advance the shared tooling that we all sort of use, rather than the state today where it's sort of distributed and, some people are using one thing and other people are using Dependabot or whatever it is, and we're all sort of struggling to make do. And the relevance, I think, to SIG ContribEx, I think, is that I think it would be a great SIG to host such a repository. It's not obvious which SIG might be better for such a thing. So I wanted to raise that idea, see if others were interested in it, and see what the SIG ContribEx people thought about the idea of hosting said repository.
We do have a bunch of existing maintainer, project lead tooling, etc. Would you be thinking of moving this to a repository?
No, because I'd like to hear what they are, but in general, no. I think the general direction would go the other way, right? Like this would be a repo where we more incubate experimental ideas. And then as they get traction, we would expect them to move out rather than moving in type thing. That would be my guess. But, you know, I'm open, and that's just sort of how I personally see it. What are some of the tools that that you're thinking about? Because maybe I
mean, obviously everything Prow related, which would be very hard to move. Because we've been talking for ages about Prow getting its own repo. And that's been held up on the actual difficulty of moving it. There's other things. I mean, this would be pretty good because Dims writes a lot of one-off stuff that then ends up living in his gists, which is not a very good place for them.
Exactly right. So the hope is that, you know, that we could aggregate and sort of collectively improve and generalize those sorts of things. And yeah, Prow is harder to experiment in, I would say, right? Like we don't want to destabilize Prow with like some maintainers like crazy Friday night idea type thing.
I'll say
Sounds
that
good
this is something that some of the ContribEx chairs at least have had a little bit of discussion about. And one of the things that we said was it would be nice to come up with a list of what we have right now. Having an idea of what we have right now would be really nice. The other thing that we talked about was having an experimental repo would mean that there could be a lot of kind of junk in it, like those gists that Dims has created. Maybe they were just one-off things that fit a very specific situation, and so they wouldn't be something that we would want to move forward and maintain. So we'd have to be clear about this being a place to share experiments and not something that is maintained itself. But the idea of moving things out eventually into their own areas makes a lot of sense to me.
I mean, we could basically move forward and say that the same like we do for working groups, like, right? So a working group has the goal that it eventually dissolves because it fulfilled their purpose. And the same way would be this repository be treated, like the contents inside of this repository. Either something solid gets out of it and then it moves in its own repository or in a separate repository, or it just lives or dies inside of this.
That would work for me, and we could always, like, you know, put something in the name to indicate that it is sort of.
It's not stable. Do not use it in production.
Incubator, labs, I don't know, like, you know, whatever.
I like the experimental word.
Yeah,
that would be good.
Experimental sounds good. Or pre-alpha.
So just one clarification. Are you talking about productivity of maintainers, or are you talking about tools to help improve health of the project in terms of what maintainers are doing? So for example, Dims writes a lot of tools for the latter part of it. So the maintainers tool, the owners files tools that I and Dims wrote together, all of those things. But those aren't necessarily to help productivity of maintainers. So I'm assuming you're talking about like helping maintainers do everyday tasks a little easier and standardize that a little better and things like that. Or is it a little bit of both?
I'm certainly thinking more of the former. I don't see the clear distinction, right? Like if I guess our owners, like I think happy maintainers make for happy projects, right? And so like I'm less clear on where the distinction is, but yes, like focusing more on the productivity and effectiveness of maintainers rather than the projects themselves and the infrastructure for that, which I think, you know, like the owners file, I think owners is maintained by SIG testing, I believe, but honestly, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I understand. So, I mean, one very basic example of a distinction would be the maintainers tool, what it does is it links the owner's files. Or if you own a specific sub-project, it'll tell you if there are broken links in that file. Things like that. Versus what you said about helping maintainers cut releases and tags and things like that. So, okay, I understand a little better now. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're a SIG lead, linting owner's files helps you too.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I think maybe if it was auto, like how Josh was talking about policies for the owner's file, right? Like, so if we could start that sort of thing off by a tool that might help inform those decisions. If we ever got to the point where we were automatically changing the owner's file based on what that tool outputs, we probably want to move it out of maintainer tools experimental or whatever it is we want to do. Like that at that point it ceases to be a nice hacky productivity enhancer for a maintainer and into something that's sort of part of the core infrastructure for the project, I'd say.
Yeah, I like that idea. That's really good.
Yeah. +1.
Okay. Do you want to create this? We've got Justin as co-lead for it. Have anybody else? One of our tech leads?
I would basically take it to the ContribEx channel again so that tech leads can respond who are not here today.
Yep.
And I have discussed it with Priyanka and Nabarun, I think, and Madhav. We were all on a call together to discuss this at one point. So it won't come as a surprise.
So would you like me to send I'm glad we've had quite positive feedback. Would you like me to send a summary of this to the SIG ContribEx mailing list, asking for feedback from people that aren't here, type thing? Is that the right next step, or?
I think the right next step would basically reping the tech leads for SIG ContribEx who might be able to take this over as a second lead. So next to you, and then just move forward with it.
We should probably ping Kate's infra just to make sure that they weren't doing something extremely similar.
Justin, are you in the meeting today?
I always have a conflict now. Let me check. Let me see if I actually have it today. I think I do. I will try to make it to the latter half. I normally could make it to the second half, but I will try.
But basically, I can also bring it up there.
That'd be great.
Because I will be in the meeting, and then we can basically clarify this in this call already. I think that's the best way forward.
I don't think they're doing anything similar, but yes, we should certainly clarify, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're thinking of this as a working group for some reason, then a broader audience is something you should be reaching out to. But if it's just something under ContribEx, then just drop a message on the ContribEx Slack, and we can just honestly go ahead and create an issue to open up a repo.
I also think it's a great idea to bring it to info, just because the people that are in working group info are probably some of the people that are most likely to create these scripts. So that would be awesome.
Yep.
I mean, what we can do is we can open a thread in SIG ContribEx and SIG Kate's infra, and then basically go from there and just link them to each other. All right. Anything else to this topic? If not, anything else for open mic discussion? Going once? Going twice? Going twice? Then, thanks everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the day or evening. or morning, depending on your time zone. We will see each other in some other meeting today or tomorrow or on the end of the week. And say goodbye to YouTube.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank you.
YouTube.